Hey, Ethan, thanks for joining me this afternoon. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Wanda.
Good. So I see you ventured off and you're doing something else. I wanted to hear all about what you're doing here.
Yeah, no, thanks. I'm basically doing a lot of the same stuff I was doing before. I just made a website about it finally. So,
Let let
s-
people know what you're doing.
yeah, just to make it a little bit easier so that instead of people calling me all the time, I can say, just go to this website.
Gotcha.
Um, so I started my career in real estate about 9 years ago as a traditional hard money lender. I lent money to people fixing and flipping houses, at hard money rates. I'm no longer I still do some of that, but I don't do that exclusively. I got into multifamily and commercial about 3 4 years ago. My role in those deals is typically I'm a general partner, but I'm a general partner because I signed on a loan. Yeah, for those who don't know, in commercial and multifamily real estate, they require the general partners of a deal who are raising the money and finding a deal to sign on loans. And if they don't have enough net worth or liquidity, they get rejected for the loan. So they have to bring on someone with more net worth and liquidity in order to qualify. So that's my typical role in the deals. I'm also a licensed attorney here in Texas. I've been practicing for 18 years. I'm also a licensed title and escrow officer at title companies, so I can help you close your transactions, especially in Texas. And finally, I also sell life insurance. I bought my first life insurance policy almost 11 years ago, and I liked it so much that I became a licensed salesman 8 years ago. And I have
Oh,
tons of
nice.
policies on my family, my business partners, my 5 kids, etc., on my in-laws, parents. That's where I usually keep my liquidity. So in order to sign on loans, I show lenders the liquidity in my life insurance policies, and they usually count that as part of their compliance and liquidity check. So let's go through the Croc lending website real quick. So I'm sharing my screen. So for those of you who don't know what a transaction, well, let's just go left to right. So as many of you real estate investors know, when you're the buyer on a deal, you'll usually have to pay a deposit or an earnest money deposit or an option fee. So the option fee is usually a small amount of money, just kind of like the waste of time fee for the seller to get in case you don't close the deal. So as the buyer, you typically never get that back. So that's essentially the consideration for them taking it off the market or just dealing exclusively with you as the buyer. Many other times, especially in commercial and multifamily, they also require earnest money deposit. So that's many times, as you guys know, 1% of the transaction. So if you're buying something for $1 million, they might say, hey, put up $10,000 at the title company. There's a period of time when it's soft meaning if you cancel the deal, you don't like something you see in due diligence or something in your life changes and you're no longer able to buy the deal, then you can turn in a notice to get a refund of the earnest money, and the title company and the seller have to give it back to you. Earnest money turns hard after typically a due diligence period. So at that point in time, if the earnest money is hard and you change your mind or something changes in your life and you're no longer able to buy the property, or you just don't like something you see in the market or in the particular deal, you are actually not legally allowed to get that earnest money back. That earnest money is forfeit to the seller. Now, you can always do some sort of legal maneuvering and try to get it back, but that's typically how it works. So I've done many of these earnest money deposit loans before where a buyer doesn't have enough cash available at a specific time and they need somebody to help them post the earnest money. So I'm willing to do it when it's in the soft period. So let's say, today is April 20th. Congratulations, April 20th, 2024. So if let's say you're doing a deal on Monday, April 22nd, and you have a 1 month due diligence period. So I'd be willing to lend you as the buyer whatever the earnest money is. And before May 20th, you before the period goes hard, you can borrow my money. But the day before it goes hard, I would withdraw the earnest money. So you have to solve for that. So you have to find a replacement for the earnest money, or you need to get liquid or bring on a partner or an investor that's willing to take the risk that once it turns hard, you can't get it back from the seller. Um, and then going to the right here, transactional lending, double closing funding. For you wholesalers out there, you're very familiar with this, but I'll just describe it. Um, what that means is if, let's say you're a wholesaler, you purchased a property for $200,000 and you're going to sell it for a very good assignment fee or a wholesale fee of $40,000. So you're going to buy the property and you're going to simultaneously sell it for 240. A lot of times, you might just be able to assign the contract where you assign the 200K contract you have to the end investor buyer. But in that case, the buyer gets to see your contract and the seller may also see it. So the seller is going to see that you purchased it for 200K and the buyer is going to see that they're buying it for 240K. So both the buyer and the seller will know that you're making a $40,000 spread on the deal. You might have spent 2 years working on the deal and expended a ton of marketing and sweat equity and real money, legal costs, etc. But sometimes the seller doesn't view it that way and the buyer doesn't view it that way. They just view you as, hey, you're about to make $40,000. And if they cut you out, they could have captured some of that themselves or split it. So in situations like that, you may not want them to see the contract. So what you have to do is you have to buy the property for 1 second before you sell the property. And if you don't have $200,000 liquid to buy the property, you're going to have to borrow it from someone. So we are more than happy to help you with that. We'll lend the $200,000 for you. We'll send it to the title company. You'll buy the property, and then 1 second later, you'll sell it to the end buyer. We'll collect a fee. You'll make a lot of money on the deal, and it's really the buyer and the seller would have to check maybe months later to see what really happened, and they might not even be able to discover that, or they just don't care anymore at that particular time. Usually people don't really care after the deal is done. So that's the classic use case for double closing and transactional lending. It's typically a wholesaler is buying a property and they don't want to reveal all of the details of a deal. Occasionally, there might be some sort of compliance issue or the buyer's lender requires, I've heard of this sometimes in short sales and other situations where the buyer's lender doesn't allow assignments. They only permit double closing. So even if you're making, let's say, $1.50 and a ham sandwich, so it's not even particularly impressive, the buyer's lender may still tell you, well, that's okay. We just don't deal with assignments. So you need to buy it and then you're going to sell it to our client. And in that case, you'll still have to borrow the money. Going down on the page, we also do what's called an emergency loan. This typically happens in larger deals where you're raising money for a deal and one of your investors backs out. So let's say you need to raise $1 million for a deal. You got everything lined up, titles ready, surveys ready, sellers on board, uh, your lender's on board, everybody's happy. They're just waiting for the wire to go to the title company. And let's say you have a big investor that was supposed to invest 300K or 5 million, whatever the case may be. The investor backs out on you last minute. So it's extremely hard for you to replace that investor. So in situations like that, you just might not have enough time and you might not be able to get an extension from the seller. The seller may just want to take your earnest money and keep it and relist it, or the seller may just change their mind and say, you know what, I don't really want to sell it to you anymore. In situations like that, you just might have a lot to lose in terms of the earnest money deposit. You also may have a lot to gain by doing the deal. It might increase your prestige and your standing in the community. It might just be one of the best deals you're ever going to get in your career, and you don't want to lose it. So in situations like that, we can come in and help you fill that gap, fill that void, lend you all of the money that you need as what your investor backed out on, lend you the money, and then you could raise that money post-closing to pay us back. So let's say it's a $4 million investor that you lost. It's very unlikely or unreasonable for you to find 40 people to give you 100K within a week or 2 days or 3 days. So you might be able to borrow the entire 4 million from us, and then we'd give you 3 to 4 months post-closing, maybe even longer, for you to then find the actual 40 people to give you the 100K each, and they actually want to stay with you in the deal. Our goal is to not stay with you in the deal. Our goal is just to solve this immediate problem, charge you interest, and then you pay us back as soon as possible. In 2024, 2023, that was very common. It's just really hard to raise money these days. Interest rates are really high. People are making tons of money in the stock market. People are making tons of money in crypto. They're not inclined to necessarily invest so much in real estate deals, especially with real estate being such a interest rate sensitive sector. There's a lot of details about syndicators and investors failing and making capital calls. So it's not a super, there's not a lot of investors saying, hey, I want to allocate all my money to real estate right now. So it's just a very challenging fundraising environment. So on the right-hand side, there's something I call a crocodile loan. This is where a situation arises where the seller is willing to finance a portion of the purchase price. So as you experienced real estate investors know, there's an adage. If I can't give you the price you want, but if you work with me on the terms, I can figure it out. So let's say there's a seller out there, they say, hey, I have to sell this for $1 million. It just has to be the price. And you as the buyer, especially if you're experienced or you know how to negotiate, you can say, no problem. I can definitely pay you 1 million, but this thing's only worth 900K. But I can pay you 1 million if you lend me 100K or you invest your money into the deal and you give me super attractive seller financing or you invest as an equity investor in the deal and then you get paid several years later. Many times sellers will agree to that, especially if they don't need all the cash immediately. They're more than happy to work with you on the terms because they're just grounded in that price. They just have to get that price. I mean, this is just one of the situations. There are other
Mhm.
situations where this could arise. So in a situation like that, let's say you're buying it for $1 million. The sellers agreed to invest 200,000 of their 1 million that they're supposed to get at closing. They're willing to reinvest that into the deal, whether as a second lien loan, unsecured loan, equity in the deal, limited partnership position, partnership, whatever the case may be. In situations like that, you as the buyer, you may have a lender that says, that's awesome. We just will not give you as the buyer a 200K credit for the cash down payment. So let's say you needed to put up 200,000 and borrow 800,000 for that $1 million purchase price. You may go to the lender and say, hey, the seller's willing to invest some of their proceeds. Can you please count that as my 200,000 down payment? And the lender just may tell you, absolutely not. We have a policy against that. We don't consider the seller carry, seller finance, seller reinvestment. We just don't count that at all. You need to show up with 200,000 real cash United States dollars to the closing, or else we won't lend you the money. So in situations like that, you could call us and we have expertise in doing this because we're attorneys and title and escrow people. We may be able to work out a solution where we are able to lend you that $200,000 down payment for that one day or that same day that you need to put it into the title company so that the lender does in fact give you credit for that. So we call that a crocodile loan, where there's some sort of seller component that helps you achieve a deal, but you still need to borrow the down payment. And this isn't just exclusive to real estate. This could happen in operating companies. There's all kinds of deals that happen, mergers and acquisition, real estate deals, et cetera, where part of the negotiation is, hey, I'm giving the price that the seller wants, but I need the terms that I want as the buyer. So in situations like that, there's creative ways of doing deals. I've had situations where I was just by virtue of me being a lawyer, an experienced lawyer, and having a attorney trust account, I've been able to have some of the counterparties wire me as the third party escrow agent their funds so that we can make sure no one's being fooled, no one's being scammed. There's no issue because a lot of times sellers and buyers have no idea who each other are, can't really trust each other because it's the first time they're transacting business. And even if they do know each other, they still may not trust each other. So they need an attorney or some sort of escrow agent in between that holds the money to make sure neither party is getting scammed or anything is happening. So I've been able to creatively use my role as an attorney and as somebody that's not going to scam anybody and write out an escrow agreement about what are the conditions under which this money gets released there, or if this deal doesn't work, then both parties get their money back, etc. The final thing on the website is just proof of funds. So a lot of times there's deals where buyers need to show an actual proof of funds, so a bank statement. Sometimes they need to see a commitment letter where I say, hey, look me up online, look me up in the property records. I've been a very experienced lender doing hundreds of deals. Please take this as evidence that the buyer can potentially borrow this money from me. Sometimes they need a screenshot of a bank account. So we're happy to provide any of those things to help you get a deal done. If that is helpful or compliant, or it passes whatever test whoever needs to see, whether that's convincing the seller or their broker that you're serious, or showing your lender that you have some sort of capability of getting funds. So we're more than happy to do that as well. So those are really the things we have on the website. We have a little simple form you can fill out. Vonda, as you know, I check my emails all the time. Today's a Saturday. I just generally work a lot. I'm happy to. I really enjoy working and being responsive. That's just how I was trained. I started my career on Wall Street. And so I'm just used to always responding back to people as fast as possible. That's just part of my personality. So I'm happy to help you guys with anything you need there on the legal, title, financial, lending side.
Well, that's great. You just solved a lot of people's problems there because sometimes it is that gap that they need in between, and you just kind of solved it. It's like, well, how am I going to get this? And now I can refer them to you to see if they fit into your criteria. So speaking of that, what is your minimum criteria?
We
And
don't
what
really have a Yeah, we don't really have a minimum, not really much of a maximum. I generally have to hold quite a lot of cash available. So if it's for these 1 day, 2 day loans, it's not a problem to send in quite a lot of money. And then proof of funds is pretty easy. We can just print statements and print screenshots of things. So what we like to call ourselves is, creative problem solvers. So I like to joke around a lot, as you know. Um, I can't solve your marriage issues. I can't solve your issues with your family. I can't solve world hunger, but I can solve a lot of financial issues. I can solve a lot of chicken and egg problems where there's the chicken and the egg, but there's no deal to be done. I can creatively come in, help you figure out how to get the chicken and egg problem done. So if that's borrowing the down payment or showing a proof of funds or doing a transactional loan so that you can get to the next step. So that's what we're able to do. I can't even solve my own child problems. I definitely feel it. So, I'm
you have
not
like five
qualified to do
children,
that.
right?
Yeah, I
Don't
have
you
five
have five
kids. Yeah, I
children?
definitely cannot solve any of my children problems. I actually probably need you guys' help to help me solve my inter children issues.
So tell me where the name crocodile loan or crocodile lending came from.
We just basically made it up. What we noticed is a lot of people use the term gator loan for things. Um, there's some gurus out there talking about it. And so enough real estate investors know what a gator loan is, but the term is used very broadly to mean a bunch of different things. So when I was just kind of looking at it, a lot of people were saying, well, this sounds like a gator loan. And I said, well, it's really not. It's a very specific type. I'm not doing all earnest money deals. I'm only doing soft earnest money when the risk is low. I'm
Mhm.
not doing only seller carry. I'm not only doing transactional loans. So I really use the word crocodile loan to really mean the seller financing component. That's a special situation where there's a seller willing to give good terms in order to get a deal done at the price they want. But then so I really use it to mean primarily a down payment related loan. So
Okay.
I'm trying to be a little bit more precise.
Yeah, and I can't tell a gator from a crocodile either. I know one has a pointy nose and one is round or something, but they both look the same to me.
I think I did a little bit of research, and apparently a crocodile is usually stronger and larger than an alligator. So just FYI. And crocodiles, I think that they're alligators are more prominent in the United States. Crocodiles are more prominent in other parts of the world, like the Nile River Valley, for example, in Egypt. But
Yeah,
then
but
again, what's the closest thing to a gator that I could think of? It was a crocodile. I mean, I don't know if there's another. If there was something else that was similar, I'd just select that. I mean, but I don't know. Maybe somebody that watches this, that's maybe one of your kids is, or maybe somebody's kid that watches this is like a super nerd about certain animals, and they say, well, a crocodile is not that close to an alligator. It's actually this other thing. And then, well, okay, we'll think about it, and we might just rebrand it slightly.
like a
So we're
frog and a
we're we're open. We're open to suggestions.
Do you deal with trust accounts?
When you say trust accounts, what do you mean? Like I have my own lawyer's trust account. It's called a IOLTA, IOLTA. It stands for like interest something trust account.
I guess I'm referring to like, do you form them in your attorney
Oh, you
role?
mean forming trust for people? Yeah, we do that.
in
We
your
form
attorney?
LLCs, corporations, trusts. Sometimes trusts are used to hold life insurance policies. Sometimes trusts are used to hold properties or assets. Sometimes they're revocable. Sometimes they're irrevocable. So yeah, we deal with that. We
Okay.
basically deal with any sort of paperwork as attorneys. So I like to joke around, I can't, like, I don't really know what to do about your car accident. I have some friends I can refer you to. I don't really know how to do your divorce. I can probably refer you somebody. If you murdered somebody and you called me, you need a criminal defense lawyer, don't call me. I don't want to hear that. I don't know who to refer you to anyways.
Yeah, I know lawyers specialize in certain things. That's why I was asking about the trust
We do
establishment.
anything related to paperwork. I'm basically able to handle the vast majority of issues that have to do with some sort of paperwork. And if I can't, I can refer you to somebody really good that I've worked with that does know that. I just don't know a lot of, I don't know a ton of immigration lawyers. I don't know a ton of criminal lawyers. I know plenty of car accident lawyers that are pretty good, and I know plenty of a decent number of family attorneys that are probably pretty good for divorces and child custody and things like that.
So I would consider you a real estate attorney.
Real estate mergers and acquisitions and general corporate paperwork attorney. I've done like employment agreements for people. I've done joint venture agreements for people. I've done supplier contracts for people, loans, equipment loans, loans from banks. Just any sort of thing that has to do with paperwork is what we're specialized in.
Joint ventures, mergers, real estate. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
forming entities. I just formed entities for one of my clients. I love this one particular client is one of my favorite clients. His name is Bill. So I always like to say, I need to Bill, Bill. I need to bill him for the work.
Got a bill.
I got to Bill.
Okay, cool. And you said if we want to reach you, fill out the form. We don't want to
Yeah,
call
you
you.
can
We
fill out
want
the
to fill
form. You
out
can
the
find me on
form.
LinkedIn. You can email me. You can call me. It doesn't really matter, especially if you have an emergency. I'm pretty easily accessible. I live here in the Katy area, just kind of similar to you.
Yeah, I'll put all your information in the notes on this YouTube.
Cool.
This has been very good, very enlightening. I appreciate you taking your time out on this Saturday to come and explain what you do, which is a lot different than what I was expecting, actually. So I'm glad
Okay.
you were able
Yeah,
to
I'm happy
explain
to.
it.
Yeah, I'm happy to try to add value to people, introduce them to creative or interesting things, whatever the case may be, whatever the audience wants.
Okay, cool. And we'll see if they have any specific questions. We might have to get you on here. Because
Sure.
I do a Ask the Experts the second Tuesday of every month. And I do that live on Facebook and Instagram. And then I have my mentees that we talk every Saturday at 9 a.m. So they may have some questions for you. So I'll see if anybody wants to talk to you about any of that and get you back on here.
Absolutely. I'm happy to make the time to talk to your folks. And then, I'll throw a challenge out there. If you guys can think of a better term for what I do than crocodile lending, just let me know. We're not, we're not marketing, branding experts whatsoever. So let us know. I just don't think it could be called something generic like down payment loan. That's not sexy enough. We need something with a little bit of panaz.
I personally like it. I wouldn't change Croc lending. It's just like, well, I wonder where he got that name from. But then when you explained it, okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And you have a great rest of your day and enjoy your 5 children today. And we'll talk to you soon. Uh-oh. Are you frozen? Are you frozen, Ethan? I think he is. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here.